Welcome to Inside the Headset with the Palestine High School head football coach Kyle Ralph, special teams coordinator, wide receiver coach Wes Anderson. And coach, we head to the second half today of the 2015 state championship game, Class 5A against Fort Wayne Snider. And we talked a little bit about kind of some of the hecticness and the struggle that happens at the half in a state championship game, with the interviews and coming and going to the locker room, which is a longer walk than we're used to, and being in a strange place and all that stuff. But I want to really kind of get down into the X's and O's a little bit here. So you're down 3 scores, 42-21, right?
Yep.
So you're down 3 scores, and talk to me about the adjustments and what the message was to the kids.
Well, my number one priority, getting back there finally, like I mentioned a couple times yesterday, is really checking up on Nick. And I know I mentioned that yesterday, but in all the craziness that goes on throughout those those short few minutes that you have there, I still have one of my team captains to attend to, and Nick had played for it. Well, Nick really had played since he was a freshman. He played a little bit the year before I even got the job here, and then started for me really from week 1 as a sophomore, and hadn't missed a game yet. And he was a great player, tremendous kid, great leader for our team, did everything. And that was kind of, one of the hard parts of this season was we were so thin. Talented. I mean, you got to be talented, but we were so thin. We just didn't have any depth. The senior class was really strong, and I know you've mentioned this before because you recognized a couple of the kids out there from, when you come over. But I mean, we're starting 2 freshmen. I mean, it went from senior to freshman is the next best in a couple of cases, and there aren't many 5A schools that even dress a freshman, let alone start a freshman, let alone 2 of them. At offensive line and linebacker, and really most of our team in this year was seniors, and there were a couple of juniors sprinkled in, here and there. Gunner played a little bit. Brett played a pretty good amount. Adam, David, Brady, but we really didn't have a lot of those guys playing, so we were super thin. So trying to find out what happened with Nick. I mean, Nick's our starting running back. He's our starting adjuster. He's our punter. He's our punt returner. He's our kick returner. He's on our kickoff team. He was incredibly valuable. And all I knew at the time was he couldn't play at the end of that half after he got hit on the sideline on that kickoff. And I knew it wasn't a head injury, because he got himself off the field and he was limping really bad. So that was number one on my mind, is what his injury is going to significantly impact what my plan has to be and what our plan has to be going forward, because he was such a big part of everything. So that's number one. And so I go in and I check with him and the doctors, and he's kind of laying up on the table, and he's got like his football pants and pads like essentially halfway down his legs there, and they're checking him out and stuff. And I went to the trainers and the doctors, and I said, what's going on? How bad is it or whatever? And they said, well, he's got a really bad hip pointer, a really bad one. And I'm like, my heart just sinks, because I've played enough football to know what that means. And those of you that maybe haven't played football, but you watch football, if you watch the NFL or whatever, maybe you play fantasy football and one of your fantasy football players has suffered a hip pointer. They're usually out, especially in the NFL when they're really trying to kind of overtake care of those guys. But that's going to put even the highest level players out for a couple of weeks, depending upon the severity of it, until that thing can properly heal itself. So as soon as he says hip pointer, I'm immediately, obviously, pretty concerned about it, and kind of feel like I've just lost essentially like 5 to 6 players in one now, so I do what I said I've done before. I said, okay, I get it's really bad, but can he hurt himself worse? Is it something that if he goes out there and punts, can he hurt himself worse? And they said, no, there's really no risk for further injury. It's just going to be extremely painful for him. And I said, all right, well, we're going to probably have to punt at some point again here. If I use him for punting, I guess that's probably what we can maybe get out of him, because we really didn't have another punter, honestly. Spencer could sort of do it, but he definitely wasn't ready to do it, not on this stage. So kind of come back over towards Nick, and he's hurting and he's pretty upset. And I just said, hey, they told me what's going on. Man, I'm sorry. Like, I'm upset, and I told him I'm sorry. And he looks right at me and he just goes, Coach, I don't care what they said. I said, well, man, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Like, whatever. And he says, look, I can't run the ball. He said, I can't. He said, this hurts way. He said, and Nick was a super tough kid. I mean, he'd already played part of the season with a broken thumb that he thought was a jam thumb. And he had people week 1 this year, he had people pulling on his thumb to pop it out because he thought he jammed it. Well, he had broken it. And he just sat there and didn't even, the people tugging on his thumb that was broken didn't even faze him. He was one of the toughest kids I've ever been around. Great wrestler, all that stuff. And he just looks at me and goes, Coach, I can't run. I can't run the ball. He said, I can't play running back. I'm sorry. I said, man, there's nothing for you to be sorry about. And he literally barely skipped a beat, and he just goes, but there's no way you're taking me out of this game. He said, I'm finishing what we started here. He said, I'm going to play. He said, I have to play. He said, don't you dare take me out on defense. He said, I don't think I can play offense for you. He said, but there's no way that I'm quitting on my team and that I'm going to sit this out. He said, no way. He said, you put me back in there and don't even think about taking me out. He said, and I'll get the job done. And I look back at the trainers, and I kind of gave them a look of like, is this even reasonable? Like, is this even serious? And they all just kind of looked back at me, and the doctor kind of came up later and goes, you know how bad that's going to hurt to have him play, right? And I said, I get it. Like, I've had injuries like this before. I said, but you already told me and you told him he's not going to hurt himself worse. That's all that kid needed to hear. There's no way he's going to come out of this game, and so, what am I supposed to say to a senior who's poured his heart into everything that we do that tells me he's going to play through that and finish this game? It's got to be one of the most courageous things I've seen done on a football field. And that's really what makes this game harder, is those little things like that. The fact that we're going to lose this game, what the kids go through to try to finish it is really what makes it even harder. So I have to put Adam in on offense, and then on defense, knowing what I know about Nick, he really isn't going to be able to cover people, so to speak. And so that then plays into the next piece here. Defensively, we obviously have been absolutely terrible. There's really no other way around that. So when I get with the coaches in the locker room, I pretty much tell them, like, and I'm not trying to be harsh in saying this, but no one has come up with any solutions to problems yet. They're just giving more problems. And I had a pretty off-the-wall idea that had truthfully crossed my mind during the film breakdown of this. And I just thought, quite frankly, it was too risky. And it just didn't fit into the overarching plan for the game. So it wasn't something that we had even talked about. But at this stage, look, what we're doing isn't working. What we've tried to do isn't working. So it's time to make some significant changes here. And I pretty much tell the coaches that on defense, I kind of there's like a separate coaches locker room inside the facility there, and I bring everybody into it, and I pretty much just said, look, here's the plan. And I said, this is what we're going to do. And I'm not really, honestly, at this point, I'm not interested in hearing anything else because we haven't come up with anything else. So we're going to go to man, and we're going to press, and we're going to play as physical as we can, try to play with these guys at the receiver positions, and hopefully mess their timing up some and get their receivers off of their routes so that they can't run routes as clean. Against zone coverage, they're not getting as much collisioning, and so they're so fast that their timing's not being messed up. And we're going to just blitz, and we're going to blitz heavy. Our linebackers are not playing very well. You even referenced one where we're not reading things at all. We're just guessing. So I'm going to take all of those things out of the equation, and we are just going to put on essentially extreme pressure from everywhere and play cover zero. What really with Nick then is going to become cover one. Nick's essentially going to be the free player for the remainder of the night and just kind of roam back there. But the downside to that, and I pretty much pitched it as this, what's going to be any different? If we can't cover them in man-to-man, what's different than what's happening right now? We just gave up 42 points and pretty much showed that we have no ability to stop them, and we're not playing well. So if man-to-man doesn't work and they run right by us, what's different than what's happening right now? Nothing really. So to me, it was at least worth a shot. The other part of this that I told the coaches is my biggest concern now at this point becomes in a shootout where we've got to really ramp our tempo up, and our guys are going to have to start running all over the field on routes to catch up here. We're now going to have to chase them all over the field as well. And I can't rotate people anymore. We've been trying to put different guys in at different times. But Duke is going to have to start playing defense. We've already got Brady over there playing defense as well. Nick's playing defense only now. Adam's already over there playing defense. He's going to have to play both ways. Logan Green's already over there playing defense, and he's the wide receiver. He's going to have to play both ways and never come off the field. And I really, our 2015 team, honestly, might be one of the best conditioned teams that we've ever had. But my biggest concern was trying to do this in a shootout. I just didn't think we were going to have enough gas in the tank. We end up playing 5 or 6 kids both ways almost exclusively here, and they're going to have to now. I mean, essentially, we score another 40-something points here, and Snider still scores another whatever
22.
20-something points, I mean, these guys are going to be on the field now for another 60 points in this game. So inevitably what happens is we really do we just run out of gas. I mean, there's no way to put it. We just the last series in this game was heartbreaking to watch because I mean our guys had nothing left to give. They give so much to come back that I mean, just to be honest, they just don't have enough left to finish it. We had guys in between series and stuff that literally would just sit on the ground, and I've never seen that before. When we do our conditioning drills and stuff, I've talked about this. We train body language in conditioning drills and stuff, and I mean, we had guys that would literally on the field in a timeout or something, they would just sit on the ground. Their legs were that bad and that wobbly, and that sucks.
We've talked about this a little bit, but I think this is a good opportunity to kind of circle back and talk about one of the challenges because of how hot it is in that building and how difficult that is when you don't have an indoor practice facility. And, you get the one day at the stadium, where you get an hour. But, for the most part, for us, especially the last 2 years, it's been a real scramble for us to try to find places to work indoors just to prepare our kids' bodies for 70 degrees because it's 7 outside. It's Thanksgiving. And I think that is one of the major challenges that I think the average fan doesn't consider in playing in this game in November in Indiana. Your body has been playing in the cold for probably a month. It's not been 10 degrees for a month, but it hasn't been 70 probably since the middle of October. And
at least a month.
And you've got to now come into that hot, dry environment, and you have to get your body to perform. And I think that you kind of alluded to it. In me watching this game, you can almost just see it in our kids. You can just see as the game goes on how empty the tank really truly gets. And I'm not going to say that if this game's played outdoors, it's different, but I think you can really see that the heat in the building is a real factor for us. So I guess my question is, did you guys do anything indoors that week in 15?
We went to the Colts facility, I think, for one day. The only thing here's the deal. Like,
here's the scoop, and I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, this game ends up being in 4 quarters. This game ends up being over 200 plays. And most of my guys, Duke, Logan, Nick until he's injured, but he's also then playing hurt. Joe, Crumlin a little bit, has to play offense here or there. Brady, those guys, they're playing. I mean, 200 snaps would normally be a game that goes into, in high school football, would normally be a game that's gone into triple overtime, essentially. Maybe even longer than that. You usually are going to play about 100 and, depending upon how the game goes and the type of opponent, but 2 spread teams are going to usually play about 140 snaps, 150 maybe. So when you get into the 200s, that's really the equivalent of having played a triple overtime game, essentially. We're going to do that in 4 quarters. And for my kids to have to manage that playing 2 sides of a football, I mean, you're taking almost 6 quarters of football and you are squeezing it into the standard 4. I mean, I can't ask anything more of my guys to do. I mean, I know that this is a big coach speak thing, and I'll probably talk about this more when we actually finish this game here. But one of the more heartbreaking parts of this entire night for me was when it was over. Obviously, the emotion from our kids is extreme, but like, when coaches say leave it all out on the field, all that, all that coach speak BS, we actually physically had a couple of players that could not get themselves off the field. They couldn't even get up and walk. Their legs were so bad. They were so dehydrated. They had no energy left. I mean, we had kids on the bus ride home that were cramping on the bus still. We're trying to pump Gatorade and stuff into them and water. I mean, they couldn't even function. That they literally had given that much in this game in this second half. So halftime speech wise, actually somebody recorded my halftime speech. I didn't know this. One of our managers, which you're not supposed to do, recorded my halftime speech. But I think Russell Athletic used some of it the next year for their little promotional stuff. But, the big thing then when we finally got in to talk to the kids, offensively, we made almost no changes except for the RPO you're going to see come out here in a little bit because, we weren't executing our inside zone stuff properly. And so I just go ahead and just fix it. And we're going to throw a little RPO off the back end of it. But offensively, we almost do nothing. The other thing I had to do is check up on Alex because he was really beat up from the first half. He'd run the ball a lot. He'd been hit. I mean, you've seen he's been hit when he's been throwing a bunch, and those really start to kind of rack up on you. He is going to get absolutely smoked here in this quarter as well. I mean, he was beat up, and it had been a long season anyway. So, I had to make sure he was good and kind of give him another little – dude, what a second quarter kind of pep talk deal. And we're going to need you even more here in the half. But really, I went into the kids and essentially pitched the cover zero thing and told them what we were going to be doing and told them that it matches up with our aggressive play style and philosophy here and that, I really just challenged them and said, we're going to find out how much you guys have to give and how much you have in the tank. I said, it's going to make you tired. It's going to be miserable, but this is what we condition for. This is why we do the things that we do. And that actually got them pretty fired up and pretty zoned in. Like a challenge on top of a challenge for this group was – they really rose to that, I felt like. And then, I didn't yell at anybody at this halftime. It's not – I mean, that wasn't going to help us here. Getting on them about how poorly we had played, that wasn't going to help. So, like you talked about yesterday, my downtime from interview to the locker room then, one of the things I had thought about, because I pay attention to this stuff, and I do all of our breakdowns for our games and stuff after they've been played and whatnot. Like I'd mentioned, we broke the Indiana scoring record in 14 games this year. We broke it the year before with 15 games. This team actually ends up breaking it in 14 games. So we do it in less. And our varsity guys, quite frankly, had barely even played past the half in most of our games. Maybe one drive in the third quarter. I mean, it was pretty crazy, to be honest. But the varsity in the quarters they had played on the season, they were averaging 21 points a quarter, which is absolutely insane. But they averaged 21 points a quarter that they had played for the year. So if for some reason they had to stay in for the whole third quarter, we would technically have about 63 points by the end of the third. Now, they never really did stay in the third quarter, but our average halftime score in this season was something like like 41 or 42-3. So they had been incredibly efficient, and we just proved in the second quarter that we could do it. And I kind of came in, I talked to them about the cover zero stuff, and then I pretty much said, guys, look, here's the deal. Our varsity offense averages 21 points a quarter on the season. And I said, we're going to need 2 of those here. If we're going to win, our offense has to be at its absolute best, and we have to have 2 of those to win this game. I knew that 28 points was not going to cut it here. And it sounds so absurd to say that I'm going to sit here and ask our offense to score 42 points in a half. But I thought that's what we needed. Unfortunately, we needed more. But to me, that was the number. And really, that was kind of the challenge and the belief of I just needed to remind them really how good they were, how good our offense really is. I still think, I know Snider absolutely just lights the scoreboard on fire here, but so do we in this game. I still think this is arguably the best offense that the state of Indiana has ever seen. I know we don't have a single Division I player on this team. There's not one, none of them. The highest recruit on this team is going to play Division II football. We have no Division I players here. So it's not that you could say, well, the great Ben Davis team and stuff, they had, 4 D1 guys. I get it. I understand that. But what this offense had accomplished with what we had, especially the points, the yards, the efficiency, the lack of turnovers, I think it's okay, arguably the best offense the state of Indiana has ever seen. And I really had to challenge them to be at their absolute finest here. And it's going to take 21 points a quarter to even make this game reasonable, in my opinion. And I told them that we can get that done. That's something we had done all year, and that's what's going to be required of them now. The final thing I told them, I mean, really, when you put down 2 challenges like that to the kids, it can be overwhelming. And I wanted to finish up. I knew on that walk back, there was one thing that I was going to finish my speech up with, and that was something that our program, and you've seen this now for the years that you've been here, but one of our core program values is something that we do with the kids a lot, and it's a talk that I give to them quite a few times, and it's called Win, Lose, or Quit. And we train our kids to not quit, because truthfully, a lot of teenage kids, it's easy to quit. It's easy for anybody to quit, but especially for teenage kids that are trying to figure things out, quitting's easy. It's the easiest thing to do. I mean, how hard is it to just say, I don't want to do anything anymore, and you just give up? So when we do our training stuff, we force them into a lot of scenarios where they've got 3 options. And I tell them it's life's 3 options as well, that we want to see who's going to quit, and we want to see who's going to compete and refuse to just surrender and give up. The first 2 things are acceptable is kind of what we tell the boys is, winning and losing is acceptable. People are going to win and people are going to lose. That's fine. You prepare, you work hard, you do your best, you win, good for you. You get rewarded for that. You prepare, you work hard, you do your best, you lose. Well, someone has to lose. It's how you respond to the loss that's really important. And the third option is you just don't even try. You quit. You give up. And that's not acceptable. And, we talked to the boys. I'm not going to get much into the speech, but we talked to the boys about how quitting in life isn't acceptable. And the fact that as a husband, as a father, a brother, et cetera, you don't get that choice, that quitting is not an option in your life. And I reminded them of that lesson that we had talked about. And I reminded them all that they're not quitters and that they don't know how to quit, and that what we're asking them to do is possible unless you choose the third option. You just decide this is too hard to do. I don't want to do it. And I knew that would strike a chord with this group, because if there was anything that they were, it was competitive, and they weren't quitters. So when I laid that challenge down, and I reminded them of the fact that they've been trained and they've been taught to not quit, and they're not going to give up now because things look bad. I wrapped it up by telling them that we're about to go back out here, and you're going to lead the greatest comeback that this state's ever seen. And that's on video. That's all recorded. And boy, do we ever. I mean, we don't finish the comeback, but it's got to be one of the greatest comebacks anyone's ever seen before. And there is no quitting our kids. The amount of heart and effort and just toughness they play with, from Nick to Alex to the guys up front, and all those skilled players that don't get to take plays off. I mean, it's what you're about to watch is, quite frankly, one of my proudest moments as a coach, maybe my proudest, honestly, of what our kids do to try to come back and finish this game. It may be the proudest thing that my teams have ever done, honestly, because it's easy to give up. It's easy to say this is over, and I think most teams would. I don't know how many teams over the years that we've played that we've done this to, that you come back out after halftime and they're ready to get on the bus. It's over with. They're done. Our kids aren't like that. So, yeah, it was hard. I mean, it was a hard halftime, a lot of emotion. Again, a big up and down between Nick, and then, a lot of the intensity that happens and stuff with the coaches and trying to get this thing on track. And then trying to give those kids a message that's going to really remind them of who we are and what we're about and where we've got to go from here. One of the most involved halftimes we've probably ever had, honestly.
Well, let's get going here. And obviously, I assume you feel like you probably have to get a stop here, right?
Yeah. It would be great to get a stop in this game. I mean, well,
that's about as good as you could hope for right there.
The immediacy of getting a stop here on this first drive is critical, because, again, you're playing the psyche game here. You're playing the mental game. If they come out and just rip one, right down our throats here again, it starts to take a little bit of the polish off of kind of that halftime we just had, which was really positive and uplifting, and gave the kids answers to the problems. It started to make them believe that we were going to start having solutions to what was going on around us here. I mean, you can see right out of the gate. I mean, we're in pretty much zero here, and here comes the pressure. I mean, we are one-on-one across the board. We're not even going to cover the tight end. As a side note to that, I know I mentioned it, but I don't think they threw him the ball anyway. We don't even cover him. But he never touches the ball. So we come out and, I mean, insanely heavy pressure with cover 0 or cover 1. You can see Nick is standing in the back right now. That's Nick. That was, that's the only place he can really play. Again, I'm not taking my captain off the field. He makes all of our checks for us, and his presence is important. With the heavy pressure, we don't have to read as much either. Like our linebackers don't have to worry about reading as much. They're just blitzing gaps. You can see how much more active we are, moving around. We're bringing pressure from all over the place. We're going to bring some DBs here shortly. It's the best we've done against this kind of counter play the whole entire game. And really, you don't really want to blitz against counter either, but we weren't doing well with it the normal way, so why not? It's probably the least amount of yards we've held them to on counter the whole game, and they get like 15 right there.
So let me ask you kind of what the adjustment is in 3-by-1 here. You talked about some cover one stuff, but once they bump to trips, obviously, Nick.
Yeah. So Nick has to come over at that point, and you can see how far away he is because he can't run. I mean, you can even tell in his back pedal that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just tell by the way he's playing, he's not 100%. And on this one, he unfortunately draws hip and hammer too, so he's got to stay really far away. Here's the thing. Like, I'm not after as emotional as him and I's conversation was at the half right there. I mean, you look into that kid's eyes and everything he meant to me and everything he meant to our program and everything he meant to our players. Should I have taken him out of the game and put someone in that can run full speed and isn't going to be in extreme pain? Maybe. But I'm a little bit of an emotional decision person anyway, and there's no way I'm taking that kid out, And I talked to him about being smart, knowing what he can do and what his body can do, staying away from people, giving him extra room because he can't run full speed, the whole 9 yards. But, I mean, to a fault, probably, honestly, to a fault, I love my kids. And especially a kid like that, when he looks you right in the eyes and, he's got tears in his eyes and the whole deal. It's emotional for me to even recap it, to be honest. But, he's sitting there looking at you and he flat out tells you that you're not taking him out of this game. He's going to finish what he started. And there's no way I'm sitting him down. No way. And his senior season, like that, not going to happen. So when they go to 3-by-1, he has to go cover. Now, the bonus is Snider doesn't know he's hurt. I mean, they know I'm sure they know that he came out of the game, but they don't know how badly injured he is. So it isn't like it's something where, he comes out with a soft cast on his hand or a big wrap on his ankle, and you can see that. I mean, it's a hip pointer. They pretty much just pulled his pants back up and that was it. There's nothing you can do for a hip pointer. You deal with the pain and you manage it. So they don't know that he's that hurt. I'll say this too about it. I didn't mention this earlier, but when this is over with, his leg the next couple of days when we came back to school and stuff was disgusting. I mean, it was like black and purple and he could barely walk. He literally walked like, kind of those cartoon pirates. Like his one leg was a straight up peg leg. I mean, he couldn't move it. And he really kind of hobbled around like that, honestly, for about a week where he couldn't even physically like rotate and cycle his leg and walk. And then it started to get a little bit better. And, he did some rehab and whatever else like that and got his mobility back and stuff. But yeah, his hip was bad for about 3 or 4 weeks, I would say, where he really couldn't, truthfully couldn't function normally, which is why that injury keeps most people out for at least 2 weeks. So yeah, he has to cover in 3-by-1, which that really sucks. But you're going to notice too, like right now in 3-by-1, if you go back here, so in this one, or when the tight end is the third guy, this one's not it. I thought that was, but that's not him down there. But when the tight end is the third guy, you're going to essentially see Nick not even pay attention to him. Like if Nick draws the tight end in 3-by-1, he won't even cover the guy. He'll just stand back there. So, those are the little things that we talked about. Don't worry about it. We wanted them to throw the ball to the tight end anyway, which is they're not going to. But, yeah, any blocks on this one anyway. It's only 3 receiver route.
Mm-hmm. That Logan up top.
Yeah, Brady's at the bottom. Logan's up top.
Nice play by him.
Yeah.
Again, the ball's a little bit underthrown, truthfully.
But we're also not giving them the windows anymore.
Yep.
And the one thing about this group too, the 14 group was not very good at man-to-man. We just didn't really have the guys for it. The 15 group was smaller than the other group, but quicker. And they were good in man-to-man. Brady actually was a really good man-to-man corner down at the bottom for us here. And Logan was good himself. They both are just – they're both just short. I think Brady was like 5'9"-ish. Logan was like 5'7", 5'8" maybe. If his their hair was long, so if his hair was sticking up, he might have been 5'8". But they were just shorter, but they were really quick and they were really good with their hands and their feet. So now here's more pressure from us too. We get a sack out of this one.
It's kind of shallow cross look here.
You can see us we don't cover the tight end at all. Look at the tight end. I mean, we just cut him loose. I mean, we're only really trying to stop 3 kids, and we've got 5 to do it, and we really still can't get it done very well. But we're getting better, and the pressure is helping. We just needed to make him uneasy in the pocket and mess the timing up on the routes and stuff. And we're starting to make some positive plays, and then for the first time all night long, we get to see their punt formation. So really, positivity-wise here,
almost got it.
We are through the roof right now. I mean, you're starting to feel it. We almost have this too.
Right there.
Yeah.
How do we miss that? Man.
There's lots of questions about this game.
I'll tell you, shield punt, and we're shield punt team. Now we're not in this game, but once I became special teams coordinator, became a shield punt team, and I believe in it. So long as you've got the right 3 guys back here, I've talked about that a little bit before. You better have some big bodies that can take on some collisions here, or this is what's going to happen. And I think the ones over the years the last 3 years that you've seen us punt that have almost gotten blocked are because these interior dudes in here have really been a problem. I think back to the Whiteland game this year and the 55 kid who was just an enormous problem for us the whole night on offense. And he was a real problem for us on our punt team too, because, he's just absolutely plowing through us here and we can't get him blocked.
Yeah.
Who is that? Who's the nose right there?
It might be Jordan. I can't quite tell. It might be Jordan Workman.
If you've got an interior lineman like that can really bust that shield up, you've got a real chance to block a shield punt.
Yeah, I think that's Jordan. He was always good at this too because he had a really high motor and was super explosive. He's the one that blocked the one against Castle the week before this. He was really good at this stuff.
So huge stop, and the offense comes out 42-21 still.
Yep. Adams at running back now. Like we talked about, Nick can't play, so Adams in at running back. The harder part about this too is we're going to end up having to throw the ball a lot, and Adam was not as good in pass protection as Nick was, and that's going to be tough. He was a good running back though. Come back with power read, get a decent little chunk here.
Curl concept here. Curl arrow seam.
Yeah, we get that soft spot here and that man-to-man look. That soft spot's right in the middle of the field, which is something we had talked about. We've already hit it quite a bit, but that soft spot that Duke's running to right now is where we're going to really come after them because they're just not adjusting to stuff. Here's another motion again.
Almost squirt that one.
Yeah, we just about get this one through. I mean, we are a shoestring away for whatever reason it was, I know we talked about this at length yesterday, so I'm not going to get into it, but these guys, when we motioned, it really helped the timing of our running plays as well. So the motioning not only was messing up their secondary, but for some reason was really settling us in on the run game stuff. And so we stick with it. In this game, it was worth it. You've probably noticed we've motioned more in this game than we probably have in all the games that you've watched combined. For whatever reason, it was just giving them a lot of trouble. I think a lot of it was they had to really keep communicating when we moved, and that was making them slow down and play slower, essentially, on top of communicating and diagnosing stuff.
Well, one of the things that you're going to see here too that's going to help us here in a little bit, because we're going to pop a long one here in a second, is you get them to just totally vacate the middle of the field.
Yeah, that's what we've been coming after the whole game.
They're hard charging this flat to kind of support. He may be rolling down for quarterback, or he may be rolling down to take away a slant or a hitch or something. But then he's also coming down here to chase this motion guy, and it's just, we're an ankle tackle away by this linebacker from.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. They had relied so much. They relied so much on their speed and athleticism to fix their problems for them. Schematically, we knew we had a lot of advantages. It's just we've got to take advantage of them. We had those 2 early fumbles and stuff, but we've definitely settled in. Every motion again. This one sucks. So
second and 2.
This one sucks only because if you go back real quick, this ends up, I think, hurting us later on in the game. I know you mentioned this to me, but if you go back to the motion here, when Joe motions, I don't know why he on the later one, but this one looks like he starts rounding up into the line of scrimmage, even though he turns his hips on this one here. The part that sucks about this, while it's going to be a great play. This is actually on my clinic tape. What sucks here is I think this kind of keys the officials into like, oh man, this one's pretty iffy. Like, it's pretty close, but I think it kind of keys their eyes into like the next one that's going to happen later, where they get Joe for a legal forward motion. This one's pretty daggone close. He just barely turns his hips and starts shuffling forward, and he's not supposed to do that at all. We've done this all year, and he's never done that before. All of a sudden now we start going forward, which he's not supposed to do. But this is just our Ohio quarterback outside zone here. We get a crack from Joe. We get a kick out from Adam. We come after that alley because, again, they're not moving. We're outflanking them because they're not moving properly. You can see the big bubble they have between Duke and the edge of the line of scrimmage because they're not moving their coverages over appropriately. They're staying way, way off here now and sticking with this kind of cover 4 look instead of maybe coming up and playing us tighter and man-to-man like they usually do from trips. So we're just going to keep coming after these soft spots in their defense. And on this one, we get a really good blocking up front. Austin Keel actually makes an incredible block at right tackle on this one with a big pancake. And
I paused it here on purpose.
Yeah, we get a great block out of him, and we get a good block from our receivers, a good block from Adam, and Alex does the rest. Huge play.
Yeah, that's just a great block by a freshman right there.
Yeah.
You may not reach him, when he's out there in a 5 like that. That's a tough reach block. But if you don't reach him, just put him on his hind end. That'll be good enough.
Yep, exactly. That'll work.
So 42-28, and I assume that kind of lifts the mood a little bit on the sideline.
Well, we've forced them to punt, which honestly was probably the best play we've had on defense, was seeing their punt team come out, and then driving the ball back down. Again, it's not to say that my halftime speech, like, oh man, that was magical, but it certainly helps when you give them, honestly, like, I mean, what else did I have to say to them? You know, like as a coach, what else do you have to say to those kids in that moment? I thought the message I gave them was tremendously appropriate. It had a challenge. It was uplifting. We didn't come in there and just lay into them. Essentially just acted like the first half had never even happened. And when you come in and you do those things, like I finished yesterday with, at the end of the day, the problems are my problems. I created the first half. And it had been months in the making, which is what upset me the most. I had created the first half. I gave them a plan. I gave them their options. And at the end of the day, the kids are going to have to execute and get us out of the hole. And if they don't do that in this opening drive, this game goes the opposite direction. And we maybe lose this game 63-21, you know. But they came out and they bought into the message and they flat out play their butts off here and make some big plays. And now you're looking at, okay, we're back down 14. That's manageable. We can do that, you know, especially with our offense. The thing about our offense this year is the belief, and you could feel it. The belief was that we could score at any time. Anytime we had enough athletes and enough good players out there that any play could be a touchdown, any of them. And you get to 14 again, and it's like, you know what? We're close. We can do this. That's 2 scores. That's easy for us. We can get 2 touchdowns. So, yeah.
Let me ask you about this decision right here.
This was a no-brainer.
Was this in the plan, or kind of a let's do it, let's just take a run at it?
Nope. This was at halftime. I said the first touchdown we score, we're going to onside kick after it. We have to create possessions here. You know, we thought we had an onside kick anyway. Because look at how they're lined up.
Yep.
And they've got a couple ham-handers up front there. So this
is almost a carbon copy of what we do in the 2018 state championship game.
Literally almost
where we try to lay that ball, I mean, right inside the horseshoe.
Yep, right on the helmet.
Yep. In 2018, it's a little bit different because this middle guy played about right here, but same concept.
You know, when I say this, it's not a knock on Snider, but these were the little things that on tape they had not been disciplined in. You know, when we charge the ball, they backpedal. You're not supposed to do that. Like, look where their guys run. Their guys run all the way back to the 45-yard line. You're not supposed to do that. And we've seen that on tape. And early in the game, we're just trying to get things moving. Using this at that point was not a good idea. To me, this was a big momentum thing at the half. We talked to Spencer about it. We made sure we were clear with him and said, I just told him, look, there's not going to be a conversation about this on the field because you could alert people to what's going on, right? After we score the first touchdown, we are going to onside kick. I don't care if they score and go up by 28 and then we come back and score and make it 21. After the first touchdown we score, we are going to onside kick the next kick, period. Like, I don't care how that happens. We need possessions, and our best defensive play right now is Snider not having the football. That's the reality of it. So if I can keep it out of their hands, that's what's going to have to happen. James Cromwell does an incredible job on this play, by the way.
Is this him?
Yeah, he absolutely screams down here and just, recklessly throws his body at this ball to try to make a play. Really ends up creating like a massive kind of pocket in their return team, and then we recover this thing. It really is. I know there's a lot of examples of this, but our kids absolutely just throw all caution to the wind in this half, and this is just another great example. Of another guy who, my God, just absolutely recklessly throws his body at this to try to recover an onside kick. It's awesome.
So this rule has changed now. and I'm not going to say that this would be called, but in the spirit of the rule, you can't do this now.
It had already changed. We get away with this.
Oh, I thought it changed between 16 and 17 is when this rule changed, that you couldn't do this anymore.
This was the first year where you couldn't collision them before they had touched the ball. The thing about this one is it's honestly, it is a penalty. Should be a penalty. It's pretty bang bang. This guy was sitting at the ball, and James hit him as the ball started to roll up to his body. I mean, it was a pretty bang bang play, but it really, I mean, technically it was a penalty. It should have been a penalty.
It just changed after that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was the season it had changed before this year.
So, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. After I had watched this, you know, we carry. I'd say we carry a surprise onside. Probably not every week, especially in our conference. We don't carry one every week. But I'd say probably 80% of the games we play, we carry a surprise onside that we want to call, or, you know, have the opportunity to call if a game situation presents itself. But unfortunately, in the time that I have been the special teams coordinator, and this will be another example, we pull one of those out and we recover the onside kick and then proceed to do absolutely nothing with it. I don't think we've scored. What have we done that 3 times in the time that I've been here? We've done a surprise onside and recovered it. One time we did not recover it. So 3 times we recovered it. I don't think we scored on any of them.
No, I think you're right. Yeah.
And this would be another example of that. We're not going to score right here.
No, we are not.
Just straight inside zone.
Yeah, same thing with the motion again.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be our out concept again.
Yep.
Nice, easy little pitch and catch here. Good crisp route by Duke.
It's repetition of what's been working and what they're not covering very well. They're actually not even lined up on this one yet. We're really pushing the tempo here on them too. And they're starting to play a couple of their guys on defense as well. I actually think the Hippenhammer kids come over to play DB some as well now, because we've been beating the passing game. So, yeah, simple stuff. I mean, we're just going to keep executing it over and over until they prove they can stop it. Another motion here.
Another motion, and kind of interesting. That time they don't really do anything.
No, they just stand still.
I mean, we're waving our arms and we're yelling and screaming here, but we're not really doing anything.
Yeah, that's again. I'm not trying to beat Snider up. They're a great team, but their communication and all that, and kind of that discipline in the back end and stuff, it hadn't been great. Like that one right there, I think they're trying to pass him off. Like the motion guy was going to the free player, but the free player just stands there down on the 0. Like he didn't even acknowledge that guy's coming over. Yeah, I mean they're playing man to man, because you can tell it's their man to man look. Those of you that have been keeping an eye on that, I mean that's their man to man look. 2 tight corners, 2 safeties way off, and then a free guy that came up in the alley to essentially protect them from Alex. Really is what his job was. I mean that was their man to man look. It's not hard to see it, and they don't move. You know, normally in man to man, you move or you pass things off or whatever. They don't even budge.
Just kind of fall off that there at left guard. Or at right guard, I mean.
Yeah.
Second and long here. Another motion into the wing. I think that's another good example of it right there. That's not Joe.
But this guy now, the guy that's supposed to cover the slot that moves over, he actually doesn't cover him at all, and he drops. The guy on the 0, he actually opens up and drops. He's supposed to cover the wing and doesn't. Now we run the ball. It's pretty much the exact same play we scored on the last series.
Yep. Center struggles to get through there a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually the exact same play.
Tough block for the center there.
Yeah, especially on that big kid. It's pretty good.
Big kid, and it looks like he's possibly a 2 technique.
Yeah, like a 2-eye.
I mean, that's a tough reach block now. Look, Keel does it again here.
Yeah. He really played a great game, especially for a 15-year-old freshman or whatever that. I mean, he played really, really well.
Well, there's a pass pro issues you kind of talked about with Adam Kincaid in there at running back instead of Nick.
Yeah.
Lose at left tackle, lose at running back, lose at right tackle.
The whole left side here just gets, I mean, the left tackle pretty much gets beat again right off of the get-go. And then Adam does a really poor job on this one here. I mean, Alex has got 2 guys. I mean, he's looking left. He's got 2 guys in his face in the window he wants to throw. And now he's getting pressure and yeah, we're not run blocking great, but we're pass blocking worse. And the problem is we have to throw to come back in this game. And I mean, Alex really is just going to be running for his life.
Nice. It was a little variant on our mesh concept that we run against a cover 4 look. Typically in mesh, your tight end goes under, and then you come over. But against that cover 4, we really like to try to pressure this front side safety and show him a double post look and make him make a choice. That's a pretty common air raid thing is a double post against cover 4. You see that a lot from Oklahoma State, Washington State. Well, it'd be Mississippi State now. Mike Leach or Mike Gundy, Dana Holgerson. Those guys, really love to pressure you with that double post into cover 4. I used to run this a lot as a coordinator, and I tell you who runs this probably more than anybody in America is Mike Leonard, who just retired at Franklin College. He loved it. They probably ran this 10 or 12 times a game when you try, because you had to play them in cover 4 because of how much they threw the ball. So something you'll see us do occasionally against a cover 4 team is kind of adjust that mesh concept and try to pressure that. You really get that true cover 4 look here. Fail. He's kind of hard charging this flat. There's nothing out there, but he's still hard charging it. Actually come down and double the mesh.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's a lot going on here that doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of kind of how they're adjusting and what they're doing. That's not an easy catch. I would argue a catch that probably should be made. I mean, he's kind of splitting our hands and knocking this ball down, but
their guy bats this one down.
Yep. So 3rd and long here. Ton of pressure. Free player.
Yeah. Yeah, not great. They blitz off the edge here. They bring 2 off of the field. We can only pick up 1.
This honestly should probably be a hot throw right here.
Again, this is something that normally we've been great at. Duke just kind of bends this thing that he should just sit down and stop. And they bring 2 off the field side, and we can only pick up 1, and we don't even do a great job at picking this up in general. So really end up with 0 total yards on this drive, honestly. We pretty much punt this ball from where we recovered it at. Pretty bad. Holding penalties, lack of blocking from running backs and linemen. That's not the kind of drive you're looking for after a big momentum swing like that, that's for sure.
So, not Nick.
No. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that. So that was part of the negotiation that I had to have with him is if I was going to let him play defense and he was going to go through all that, I had to save his leg as much as I possibly could. So when we came out for the half, I told him, I want to see you punt the ball and know if you can or can't punt it. And he couldn't even get his leg up. I forgot to mention that part. So, yeah, my initial plan was to have him punt only. And then when I find out that his leg won't even rise, I had to put Joe in. And Joe, every once in a while could boom one. But for as many as he would boom, like when we do our pregame punting stuff on Thursdays, for as many as Joe would boom, he would also kick one onto the track or like up into the bleachers. So
lane one.
We just didn't have other choices here. Yeah, I forgot to mention that part of the story there. Yeah, Nick couldn't even get his leg to rise up, so I couldn't have him punt then. Yeah. I mean, you can see like Joe's got he's got a weird angle to it. The whole thing is.
We're false stepping.
Yeah.
You can tell he's nervous. Yeah, I know. I'll tell you what. We've been pretty hard on Adam Kincaid. On some of his pass protection stuff. Just as a general rule here, what you don't want to do as a personal protector is block him literally towards the punter. As a general,
not what you're aiming for.
General special teams rule here. If you're going to push him this way. So almost get another one blocked here.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like 3 for 3 or 4 for 4 on just about blocking our punts with.
Does Joe actually get hurt here, or is he going for the Oscar?
No, he rolled his ankle.
I couldn't tell if that was legitimate or.
I think he stepped on that kid's foot.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Yeah, he rolled his ankle on this play.
And that's another little thing, like when your punt protection is just not sound. We get a punt away. We're missing a play here because this ball's at the 20-yard line. But, you get a punt away, all's well, but you get your punter's ankle rolled because your protector doesn't do the protection right, and you end up with somebody in your punter's face that's not supposed to. And now you've got a two-way starter with a rolled ankle.
Yeah, that's now our starting middle linebacker, team captain, starting Y, punter, kickoff, punt return. Now he's got a rolled ankle.
So still 42-28.
Yep. This is another one of my clinic cut-ups here.
Mm-hmm.
Good pass off by our guys in cover 0. Adam and Logan do a really nice job on this kind of switch here and make a really nice play.
I like this little play design here. If you're a screen team, this is a good way to get to your little tunnel screen to motion to it and kick him out with the motion guy.
Yeah, it's a nice
job. Little variant.
Both these guys in this play. It's a good job by Adam. This is a really nice play action by him at the top. It's really well done. You can see we're still bringing. We're coming.
I'll check with me there from them. There's a counter. I got a little unlucky there. You're pressuring away from the counter.
Yeah, well, we still double gap ourselves, which that problem hasn't been fixed. And not going to change. So blitzing or not blitzing, we're still making some of the same mistakes. I mean, it's not what you're looking for, but it is helping us in the passing game right now. So the risk of it, I guess, is technically worth the reward, but we double gap ourselves again on the weak side of that play, which is bad. This one is, oof. Brady's got this in his hands for a pick six. Some good pressure from Adam on the weak side of this on the sprint out. He does a really good job of trailing this thing and putting some heat on. Those quarterbacks can feel that. And then Brady really makes a tremendous break on the bench route. They've run the same route on us earlier in the game, and oh my gosh, he's got that right in his hands. But
so force another punt.
Well. Yep.
Boy, you don't really want to fall down right in the middle of the field.
No.
That is obviously not great. When you're getting our calls Peter to get away from it. And I'm sure he's getting a Peter, and we fall down right in the middle. Oh boy, that would make me awful nervous. So back out, still 42-28. Made a couple of stops here. Looks like our midline here.
Yeah.
Boy, and he just runs right at the mesh.
Yeah, they had made a pretty good adjustment to that. Instead of him just sitting there getting, pretty much getting red, he just starts running right at the mesh point. And he's a big body too, so it's hard to do that when a big kid like that can actually move is sitting there just hard charging the mesh point. Really nice little finesse throw here.
Yeah, kind of a wide pop look, double slant. Don't get the call there.
No, we don't, but it was a really nice throw to that weak spot again. I mean, it was right in our hands there. We don't get it.
Here's what kills us. This one's the penalty where you see him round this off and go forward.
Yep. I mean, that he actually just runs at the line of scrimmage on that one. Yep, this sucks. We'd set this one up too, which was the bad part. We'd had this set up with that motion and those arrows nonstop, and yeah, that really sucks.
It's just slant. But that happens. That's football. So
again, they screw that up again. I mean, obviously you give up a play like that, but that motion's got them so messed up here. I mean, they're playing man to man. We motion, and then for some reason they don't communicate. So like the one guy looks like he's going to play cover 4. The other guy's still playing man to man. They make another huge bust here, and well, we mess it up ourselves too by doing that motion like that. But we've got a lot of good stuff going for us, truthfully.
Come right back to it. That's curl.
Yeah, that was curl. Yeah, just sit down in the window there.
No brainer here.
Oh, this way it wasn't even close. Again, we had held them to a couple of punts, and honestly, like we're down 14. The third quarter is starting to fade, and it's getting to be crunch time. I get that. I get we have just made our first 2 stops of the night, and you're like, hey, coach, your defense is playing better, man. Put some trust in them. But here's the thing: we're really not playing better. we're putting a lot of pressure on that's causing them to make some mistakes. We're still double gapping ourselves. We're still not reading plays. We've just made a couple of plays. The DBs have made a couple of plays. We're really not playing better. They're just making mistakes. And we need possessions. In all honesty, if they get the ball back, are we going to probably stop them for a third straight time? Right now, the odds say, no, you're not going to do that. So whether they get the ball after Joe's punt God knows Joe could punt this ball 45 yards. He could punt this ball 4 yards. They've also almost blocked 3 punts. So, yeah, no-brainer. Really, that's all the stuff that goes on in my head, but there was never – I didn't even have the punt team near me. It wasn't even a question. We're going for this right now. With all the other X factors that are going to play into this, we're going for this on 4th and 1.
Looks like we called this wrong up front and just give up a B-gap slant. And if not for that, boy, we've really got something cooking here.
Yeah, this is the one where Alex gets absolutely clobbered because of that. So we don't block up front again, and we blow an assignment. Adam has to then pick up that defensive tackle or defensive end and can't get to the edge to help us kick out. And because of that, the guy that he's supposed to kick out ends up getting a free run downhill at Alex. Alex is trying to get the first down, and then all those inside pursuit players that we're supposed to be cracking and all that, just clobber us. I'm going to tell you right now, he took a shot on this one where I thought we just lost our quarterback type deal. He got absolutely smoked. Got up pretty slow, and yell out like you good. The trainers the trainers came running down because he got annihilated. And he just kind of gave me the whole wave his hand get off the field, I'm fine thing. But I'm gonna tell you what, it's probably the second hardest I've ever seen him get hit.
The Richmond hit the other one?
Huh?
Is the Richmond hit the other one?
No. The D1 kid from Yorktown got a free shot at him because we didn't block and hit him right in the ear hole at the end of the half. And when Alex got up, it was – I'm not joking. It was one of those things where his face mask was bent and his helmet was on sideways. The kid was 315 pounds too. So that's the hardest I'd ever seen him get hit. This may be number 1. It may be number 2. You're splitting hairs. He got destroyed. And then the very next play does this. RPO.
This is our RPO here.
Yeah, RPO hitch into the boundary. They make another mistake here, so we're going to read that linebacker for the RPO part of this. Alex makes a really good, quick, easy diagnosis and throw, and they make another huge mistake. Their corner hard charges this ball, blows contain, and Logan does a great job picking up this block, and we outrun Duke outruns them for a touchdown. So we blow one on this drive, but we score anyway. And now you're down 7. And the last time we were down 7 was after their opening drive where they just ran it right down our throat. It's 2 quarters of play, and we haven't even been within 7 points now. So now you're back down 7, and you're starting to feel it turn a little bit where their guys are starting to think, what's going on? We had these guys dead to rights, and you can tell in their body language they're starting to, this isn't good. And our guys are feeling it.
I do want to talk a little bit about this, about why this occurred, and I do want to mention that right now, and I don't want to hammer these guys too much because we've made enough negative comments about how poorly we've blocked in this game, but this RPO comes out of necessity because we can't block our base play right. Like, we can't run inside zone correctly. So you decide, you know what? Fine. If we can't block it right and we're never going to block the linebacker, then we're just going to post this and we'll just RPO it. That's an adjustment that you make to a problem.
Yeah.
That results in a 73-yard touchdown pass on a 4-yard throw.
Yeah. Yeah. Essentially, yeah. So,
and if we're blocking inside zone right, this probably never happens.
Yeah, the big problem was I don't know why, but they kept not counting that linebacker because sometimes he was in the box and sometimes he wasn't. And for some reason, and we've played against so many teams that do that to us, and we always do it the same way. I don't know why in this game they're not, but they're not. And instead of just either arcing around that guy or going underneath him anyway to get to that linebacker who's going to fill anyway, or instead of just kind of sifting through him like we always have done. And I've got clinic cut-ups of that where they've done it flawlessly in multiple games over the years. We're not doing that right now. And it's not like, Coach Buchanan coaches it. We're just flat out not doing it. So this was my correction to just say, I'm tired of them being wrong and making mistakes. I'm going to fix it myself by taking their human error out of the equation. And if they're going to keep screwing it up, then I'm going to put more on Alex's shoulders and make him do more. And that's really what the whole game becomes, truthfully.
It's just remarkable that this occurs. This touchdown occurs. Now, I would also argue we probably took 2 or 3 off the board in the first half because of us blocking it wrong. But this touchdown only occurs because it's the solution to a critical problem that we have with our number one play. We're not executing our number one play, the thing that we have to do well to win, because that's our philosophy. If we can't run inside zone, we're probably not going to win.
Yeah.
And an adjustment that you make here to try to make our base play go that results in a 73-yard touchdown. I just don't think that can be, I don't want to understate the magnitude of what that adjustment did. And obviously it's huge because it brings us to within 7.
Yeah.
Probably the best that's looked all night, that PAT protection.
Mm-hmm. They're still coming after the right side pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to pay for it here shortly.
Yep.
This is incredible.
Major adjustment here for them. They're absolutely not. Now, this may be, score in time, but, they have really cranked these 3 guys up here now. And I would argue is potentially a factor in this.
Yeah, because they can't block from that angle.
Right, because the guy who has to block the guy that forces the fumble is him at the 40. And he's trying to deep drop.
This is just an unbelievable hustle play. Jordan's down there, Luke's down there, and then Logan ends up, the ball pops. We force a fumble, and the ball pops out. And, return it for a touchdown. Wild. Tie game. Literally the roof on Lucas Oil with, 1/20th the normal fans that are in that place for a Colts game or whatever. The roof felt like it was going to come off of the stadium. It erupts on our sideline. It absolutely erupts.
That second line doesn't block anybody.
No.
And that is 100% well, maybe not 100%. Oh, a majority of that is because of the adjustment they made, and they're kind of in a modified hand situation. And I don't know how much. I mean, Coach Tip would have to answer that question. How much of that was because we onside kicked the last one, versus they may onside kick again because of the score and time and kind of everything they've done. But that's the risk you run. When you go to that modified hands alignment, you aren't going to block anybody. And I'll tell you, when we go, they're a little bit different because it's not full hands, obviously. But when we go full hands, my last word to our returner is, listen, once you get contact, just go down. Won't need to try to fight for yards here. If they're going to kick it to you, just either try to get out of bounds or get down, because you got no help.
Yeah. Huge play. Incredible. Yep. I mean, just another one of those effort, tough moments here where, I mean, that's Logan Green, who hasn't come off of the field, busting his butt down on kickoff to make a play like this. Luke Ely's out there. I mean, our kids are pouring their heart into this deal. This was an incredible moment. Holy cow. To get this game back to tied, truthfully, is a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I know the math on this because I've done it, and I've spoken on this at clinics before. When you're down 21-0 in the first quarter, let's say it doesn't really matter how you phrase this, but a 21-point lead in the first quarter gives you essentially a 93% chance to win the ball game. 21-0. That's what we were. And at one point we were down 28. If you're down 28 points at any point in the first half, if you are down 28 points, you have a 3% chance to win, roughly. So to even come back from 28 down, and really was kind of on the brink of possibly being 35 down, but to come back from 28 down at this level against a team like this is honestly miraculous. And to think that we're going to take the lead here in a second is even more absurd. Now, I mean, we end up losing, so I guess we're one of those 97% that don't win that game. But, yeah, I know the math because I've spoken on the math. So I know what we're up against when you go down like that.
Great effort there in our kickoff team as well. We don't kind of get pushed by a little bit here, which happens.
Here's, I think, a byproduct of what happens there, though, that's not good is they put their skill players back in.
Yep.
They bench that kid, and they put the skill players back there, and then, well, you'll see what happens in the fourth quarter.
So 42-42. Bubble go look here.
Yeah, truthfully, really well covered by us.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel them, and that's not something like they're pressing a little bit. Here's their smash route again.
Yeah, they scored on this one in the first half.
Yeah, they hit the actual corner. They don't get it here. Yeah. They go with the kind of, I mean, really kind of a hitch out here. It's not a hitch,
yeah.
but
I call it kind of a runaway hitch.
Yeah, still a great play by us, though.
Run off here.
Yeah, still a good play by us. Because they're in third and medium now.
Yeah, I think that's Brady, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does a really good job here and doesn't chase it. And it's kind of playing the chains a little bit. And one of the things we talked about it a lot in the Michigan City game, but, if they want to throw a 4-yard ball, let them throw a 4-yard ball. Come up and rally. Try to break it up. Let them make a catch. Get them on the ground. We'll live play another day.
Yeah, we call it one hit, one tackle. They want to throw it at 4, then just tackle it at 4. But you can't miss. But they want to throw the ball at 4, tackle the ball at 4. That's fine. Yards after the catch are going to kill you.
little miscommunication there. He gets hit. I think he's still going to that wheel down here. This is kind of.
Yeah, we get good pressure again. We're making them uncomfortable, which is big. We're getting hands up in our face. Our hands up in their face, rather. Starting to get a little momentum.
A double post wheel look. Really do a nice job on both the posts. Collision that inside guy. We lose him, but we at least collision him. And get him to punt again.
Yeah.
Almost blocked that punt as well. Boy, that's a nice kick.
Yeah, he can boom it.
So first chance to take the lead here.
Yeah, really nice run by Adam here. Good blocking up front, good run.
And you see kind of the RPO piece of this again here.
Yeah, good
Is
bounce.
this right?
Yeah, he's going to sit down the front side too. We built that in just in case. Alex was good enough to do both. Because the weak side on that one, like if the weak side, that guy had been sitting in that alley, so you don't have access to that backside kid one-on-one to throw an RPO unless you're going to run a fade. And our guys weren't going to just run a fade. You know, they're not going to just sit there and just blow right by that guy. Sure. So, yeah, we decided to just do a front side one there. And if you got a good open window, go ahead and fling it out there.
So that's the third quarter. And
wild.
What a turnaround. And obviously, I'm sure the juices are flowing here a little bit, you know, to enter that quarter with a 21-point deficit and leave that corner tied.
Yeah.
So, you know, we talk about this a little bit tomorrow, but you know, I'm sure the feeling is you basically enter into a fourth quarter shootout basically with a score 0-0. You know, you've climbed that mountain all the way back up, and now it's one quarter of may the best team win type deal. Is that kind of how you're feeling?
Yeah, the you know, here's what's crazy. You know, it's recorded. It isn't like I'm making this up. We did exactly what I had asked them to do. You know, the pressure is getting to them. They hadn't expected it. We scored 21 points, which is incredible. We held them to 0, which at this point, honestly, is even more incredible. And we're tied. I mean, we're tied. People had left the game at halftime, not Dragon fans, but normal fans wanted to just get home because it was late. A lot of people left at halftime, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, that's a tie game. You know, there's a lot of hope, a lot of optimism, a lot of momentum. Here's the reality of it, though. You can already tell that quarter has worn on our kids.
Yeah.
Nick's hurt. He's really struggling to move. Only being able to play one side of the ball is probably making it worse because the more he stands, the tighter it and worse it gets. So he's constantly having to move around the sidelines to keep his leg at least functional. Joe rolled his ankle. He's hurting. Alex is really struggling right now. I mean, he's been hit and beat up the entire night. You know, and then you've got Duke out there who is, I mean, God, gets a 80-something yard touchdown called back, and then a couple plays later gets a 75-yard touchdown. He's running routes like crazy. He's out there blocking. He's on special teams. Logan is absolutely exhausted. He's out there nonstop playing man-to-man on any of their guys were Division I caliber wide receivers. He's out there having to play man-to-man on them and then come play offense. He's down there hustling on special teams, running 60, 70 yards downfield on kickoff, making plays there. I could tell that my biggest fear was becoming a reality at this point. And I'm going to try to manage it as the game goes on to see how much gas I can give these guys. The fourth quarter, I'm going to rotate a little bit, but we're just not deep and good enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I've got to make the call in the fourth quarter to just say, that's it. All the guy that you just got to stay in the game. That there's no other choice. We're not good enough and deep enough to do anything but that. And I can already tell that third quarter has drained a lot of what my guys have to give. To come, like I said, to come back like that, I know the math. I know the math behind it. It's miraculous. And to do that, like I told them, you're going to have to burn your gas tank to empty. And then whenever you get a break, you've got to get as much gas back in the tank as you can. And when you come back out there, you got to burn the tank again.
Mm-hmm.
That is our biggest problem. That third quarter took a lot out of the boys physically. They got banged up a little bit, but the mental toll it takes to play and stay that sharp. And while you're doing that, over here fighting off, truthfully, the science behind it, your brain tells your body it needs to shut down, that you're doing too much. And I've done a lot of research on this. It's true, but it's not true that you actually can mentally reprogram yourself essentially because your body has more to give. And, while you're doing all this in the course of a game, you have to keep telling yourself, I got more to give. I can do more. I can play harder. I can keep running. I can go down on kickoff. I can cover this guy. I can run this route full speed. Focus on catching the ball. All those things. That third quarter really took a toll, and we are going to continue to fight. I mean, we've still got 3 touchdowns in us here. It's just not going to be enough. It just isn't going to be enough, and that's the reality, and I can see that in the kids. It was a little bit like Valpo. Valpo's just happened a little bit later because their offense was slower paced, and we didn't burn as much of our tank up early in the Valpo game. But it was the same feeling, and this one, so you understand what I'm saying. Like the start of that fourth quarter against Valpo when they had just been running routes nonstop and we had to chase them all over the field, I knew the third quarter had taken a toll on our kids to the point where we weren't going to have any gas left to finish that Valpo game. We were going to be on fumes, and we end up having to really ride Charlie in the back end of that game because he didn't play both ways, and the receivers had, and they just had nothing left to give.
The receivers had, our 2 tackles had,
and the O-line had. So
I remember that last drive where we've got to make a stop, and Kyle King's got to come out of the game for a handful of plays.
He couldn't even stand up.
Yeah, so we've got to run Noah out there. In a critical game situation where we have to have a stop,
right?
And we run that's not a knock on Noah, but obviously Kyle's going to Michigan State and Noah's not, and we've got to take our Big Ten commit off the field for a handful of plays in that critical situation just because the tank was so empty.
There's nothing, and Matt had to do the same. There's just nothing left for them to give. So it was the same feeling, and so what I'm talking about because.
Mm-hmm.
That Valpo game was about – we were winning, so it was about preservation. How much gas can I leave in the tank for these guys to finish the job? The difference of Snider is they're in the same mode right now of they're going to be on fumes, but we're chasing. We're in a constant chasing battle, so you can't preserve. It's put the pedal to the metal and – hope to God that the fumes get you to the finish line, and they almost do. But unbelievable third quarter. Unbelievable. One of the best quarters of football that we've probably played across the board, from just a energy, enthusiasm, full-on sell commitment to getting the job done. It's, again, as proud as I've been of our kids and what they've been able to accomplish. But you're going to see in the fourth quarter, it just becomes too much. The injuries pile up, and the deficiencies pile up. Lack of depth becomes a problem, and we literally just run out of gas. That's how it goes.
Well, obviously this was a really fun quarter to cover. Don't know how much we're going to enjoy tomorrow, but and a lot of the strategy that comes into that with the missed PAT and chasing points, and I think there's a lot of good coaching stuff to discuss tomorrow, but obviously it's just not going to be a super fun blasty blast.
No, it won't be.
So we will do our best to bring a positive attitude tomorrow if we can. To this fourth quarter of the 2015 state championship game. So, Coach, appreciate it as always. Really thought this was a good one today. A lot of good insight and a lot of good coaching stuff there. So, we will see you tomorrow.
All right, sounds good.